Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversations in the Future of Work. I am delighted today to have one of my dear friends and close advisors who's been working with us at Virtual Sapiens since the beginning on the show for a second time today. And we're going to be digging into a lot of her recent work around trust and influence, especially as it comes to relationships and conversations and communication. So I would love to pass the mic over and welcome Dr. Abbie.
Thank you, Rachel. It's so good to be here. I'm Dr. Abbie. I'm a behavioral scientist. I specialize in nonverbal communication, trust, and human decision making. I train federal agents, including Secret Service, FBI, Homeland Security. I am recognized by the US State Department of State as having extraordinary abilities in the sciences, and I am a 40 under 40 honoree.
Amazing. Will you tell us a little bit about the book that was just recently published?
Yes, so The Upper Hand, I say that I have my two books. I have Work in Progress and I have Upper Hand. The Upper Hand is my head, and then Work in Progress is my heart. And that Work in Progress is all about the emotions and dealing with the self. The Upper Hand is about thinking, it's communication, it's how to get what you want. It's business. And this was almost like, I have no other way to describe it other than my baby that I curated for 7 years. I started writing this when I was 19, 20. And it came from the accumulation of all of my research. And I had seen so many things about nonverbal communication of, if you see this cue, it always means this thing. If you do this behavior, you'll always get this result. And it was infuriating to me because that's not how people work. And I would do things and see things and I'm like, but it didn't work. And the speaker would always say, well, do this and get that. And I couldn't get my head around that approach because it was like, but why? Right? As a scientist, as a researcher, my question is always why. I wanted to understand why people did things. And I would read these science books and nonverbal books, and it was always that do X, get Y, do X, get Y. So I wanted to do something different, where instead of just saying, here's an influence tactic, here's how to get what you want, I wanted to create an understanding for people of how people actually think. So that when they use the tools, if they don't work, they can go back, look at the framework, understand why, and then correct it. And I didn't just want to give people a set of here's 5 things. I wanted to give them here's an understanding, go make your own 5 things. Because I can't give you 5 things that's going to be perfect for every situation, because every situation is different. So I spent years and years, and I mean like sticky notes on the wall, paper pinned to the wall, strings from here. Like, if you imagine a crazy professor, that's how my office has always looked. Because I wanted to understand what are the evolutionary foundations of thinking. Because we're 99.9% genetically identical. So if we understand those commonalities in how we think, we can understand, okay, well, what applies to everyone? And then we also need that one thing that is, okay, what's unique to us? So I tried to create this simple model, and I had it as 4 things for a really long time. And then it was actually, as I was writing the book, writing towards the end of the book, ready to publish, and I'm like, something isn't right here. And I used to read a lot of astronomy and physics and biology and chemistry because my supervisor said to me, don't be such an expert, you're not an expert anymore. Meaning, don't just study your field. You'll miss so much. So I tried to read all of the sciences around it, thinking like, this isn't actually going to help me in what I do. And that final principle actually came from a lot of physics. And even astronomy, I'm like, oh, interesting. We are kind of connected to the universe in a non-wishy-washy tarot cards kind of way. Like, literally biologically, we are in sync with this planet. And that came up with one of my principles, which is the mind-body connect, about how our inner world, like our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our physiology, will change depending on the outside world, like other people's body language, the time of day, smells, sounds in the environment, things like that. So I came up with this framework to then give to people so they can make their own tools. And it just, before I'd even released the book, the Secret Service requested me to train the framework. And it went down so well that I kept training them.
Amazing. And that's all in the upper hand.
That's all in the upper hand. Yeah, the upper hand is, it's how to get what you want. So it's all influence and persuasion, but it's not how to get what you want at the expense of other people. So it's not how to make people feel so scared they give you things, how to make people feel like they have no choice but to give you things. It's about mastering influence and persuasion in the long term. So not how to just get what you want, but how to keep getting it. So I don't want to make a quick sale. I want to make a sale and keep making a sale. Maybe I won't make this sale, but they'll go home to their friends and talk about this great interaction. And then I'll make a sale later. So it's more a book about building trust, building relationships, and actually becoming someone trustworthy, not just appearing trustworthy. So it's about that long-term influence rather than a very short-term gain. And I think that's really important because sometimes I forget to mention that because I know it so well that I talk about influence and persuasion. And I had someone mention because I'd said some of these tactics don't work. And they're like, they work all the time. And I'm like, I didn't explain. They work. Yeah, these short-term tactics work, but they don't build relationships. I don't care about tactics that will get you a win if it ruins a relationship, because I want to keep winning. I want to keep having those interactions. Like our friend Joe Navarro, he tells me about this time where he had someone that he put into prison. He came out of prison and he still texts Joe for advice. Because even though Joe was the one that put him there, because he did it in a way that the person trusted him, he knew that he was just doing his job, and he was a safe individual. He wasn't just this mean agent. He trusted Joe. And they actually have an ongoing relationship where he asks for advice, he gives advice. Because he's like, okay, this is someone that I respect and trust. And obviously it's not always going to be that extreme, but it's about that long-term trust building.
Yeah. So your book challenges obviously a lot of these things, and,
Yes.
and one of the other ideas that it challenges is that influence comes from, as you mentioned, power or leverage over someone. So
Yeah.
what does it actually mean to have the upper hand in a conversation without it being about power or leverage?
Oh, that is a great question. I don't think I've actually been asked that question specifically, which is crazy because it's called the upper hand.
Right.
But having the upper hand without power and leverage means being in control, right? And being in control of yourself. So not, okay, I'm going to control what everybody else does. Being in control of yourself means that I know I can't control everybody else, but I can control my reactions. It means I know that if I'm put in this difficult negotiation, I can pause and I can think about not, okay, what's going to get me this quick thing right now, because that's an emotional drive. I can pause and think, oh, I really want to say this thing, or I really want to do this thing. It's going to feel so good. But I remember future me has this goal. Future me wants to be here. So I'm going to stay in control of the things that I want, and I'm going to choose the tactics that get me that long term. So having the upper hand doesn't mean that you're always going to win in that scenario. It means that the end goal is what you're focused on. It means that, okay, sometimes I'll let you win this argument. Sometimes I'll let the other person have the win. And you might think, well, they have the upper hand. No, they have the win right now. I still have the upper hand though, because I have the goal in mind. And I've stayed in control of working towards that goal. There's been so many times where I have taken a step back of things I want, and okay, you can have the win, because I know in my head, this is the path that's going to get me what I want in the long term. I'll give up the little wins because it will get me there. And I call it taking the long road. So having the upper hand is taking the long road, not the short road. I worked with a woman a few years ago, and she got a lot of wins. And she got a lot of the stuff that I really, really wanted to get. Speeches I wanted, events I wanted. Because she knew what people wanted to hear. So she would sell them that. And she had no problem taking credit for other people's ideas, including my own, that I had told her quietly. She had no problem using them as hers. If I use someone else's, I give them credit. And I won't use someone else's unless it's like me, here's a quote, here's something, going, look at their work. And doing it that way and not telling people what they want to hear but what they need to hear isn't always as appealing. So she would get all these wins. And it seemed like she had the upper hand. And I wouldn't take that path because my long-term goal was I want to be a respected scientist. I want to be someone that people know has credibility. I cared about my long-term reputation. She was getting all these wins and people would hire her, but they wouldn't hire her again because they would use her tools and they wouldn't be effective. Because just doing things people want to hear doesn't make them effective. Usually the stuff that we want, like, yeah, do this, you'll get a quick win. They're usually not effective because if it sounds too good to be true, it is. And she would get hired for a lot of stuff. And her reputation started to kind of hold her back a little because she left people feeling hurt. There was nobody, and I can say this with complete certainty, there is nobody in my career that I have passed through that can say I took anything from them, I took credit for their stuff, or that I pushed them to the side to get what I want at the expense of theirs when it was theirs. We go together. It's like Joe and I pass each other work. Brad Beeler, who's another person who's in my field doing what I do, and I send things his way if I think he's better. And he sends things my way if he thinks I'm better. And we both end up getting more work. And when the Secret Service reached out to me for me to train the upper hand, the agent in charge, they reached out, specifically quoted that he reached out because he was made aware of my reputation in the field as someone with integrity and credibility. And to get to that point, I turned down so many opportunities. And it is hard because I kept thinking, look at all these people winning. Look at them getting these views. There's money. They're getting paid 4 times as much as I'm getting paid for half the work. And you think, oh, I could just, but you have to stick your ground and think, no, the upper hand is that long-term goal. And now you watch people that take the short road, they have the quick win, and then they kind of come down, and you take that slow path. It might take you 3, 4, 5 times as long, but you will go higher if you take the honest road. And that, to me, that's what's having the upper hand.
Yeah, it's very analogous to how we approach things at Virtual Sapiens, right? Like we didn't take VC money, which obviously nothing against companies who did, but there's a certain like splashiness and like braggadocious kind of marketing that a lot of companies will do, and it's not actually reflective of reality, and it can be very distracting, right? Because as a founder, I'm like, oh my god, look at all these amazing things these people are getting, and they're coming, oh my god. And I know Virtual Sapiens and how we're doing so well, and you don't know anything about the other person's business, right? So obviously it's so much easier to imagine that they somehow like struck gold and like found the magic bullet, right? When in reality they're probably absolutely struggling in either some of the same or at least unique to them ways, right? But I think having that resolve and that sense of abundance too, that like there will be the right opportunity for you and your unique strengths. And operating from a sense of abundance is, I feel like, something that feels very counter to the zero sum kind of quality or feeling of business, but can, if you can really harness it, make a huge difference in the long run, as you say.
And it sounds very like wishy-washy, spiritual, kind of like, oh, let's meditate and think about it. And, that's not corporate. But actually, when you think about, like you said, a sense of abundance of, I'm very grateful for where I am, you do operate better. And it's because when you're constantly operating at, this person's doing better, this person's doing better, I got to chase this, you're constantly in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, you are flooded with cortisol. And cortisol blocks information retrieval. It blocks decision making. So your decisions are a little bit messier. Everything feels more panicked. That's a very difficult way to operate at your optimum. And I'm not saying have absolutely no stress. Like, obviously, yes, things are important. Put a rush to those things and have a sense of urgency in general. But when you think, I'm grateful for where I am and I am in abundance, but yes, it will be great to do more. When you operate in that way, you do lower your cortisol levels. So you're more clear in your decision making. You think more strategically. You're not in that constant panic mode. So you do have a little bit more decision making freedom. Because it's like if you work 7 days a week and you are exhausted, but you go, I can't take a break, I have to keep pushing, you're less productive than if you just work 6, take a break and get back to it, because you can recharge. So you're more clear, you're more present. And it's the same in the mindset that you take to your business. If you just go, 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 go constantly, and it's always the I have to do more, I have to do more, and the fear of everybody else is outdoing me, you're actually doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. So you talk about that's like one kind of this being in that like fight or flight stage as a psychological driver that will impact the way you respond in conversations. What are some other like key psychological drivers that shape how people respond in conversations and negotiations?
One of them is that we have evolved to connect. We have evolved to connect and cooperate. We think that the human species is innately a very selfish species. We are a self-serving species, but we are not just a selfish species. We are a very highly cooperative species by nature. We had to be. In order to evolve, we have had to be group species. We needed to work with other individuals to have access to resources, to have access to allies in wartime, food, safety, all these things. And we know from tons and tons of evolutionary research that we've lived in cooperative groups our entire existence. So we have this idea that people are very selfish. And actually, people generally just want to belong. And what we have learned, though, is to be skeptical. Because when we put our trust in people, because we are naturally a very trusting group, again, we've had to be in order to be a social species. But the world is not as it was, and there are a lot more barriers now to relationships. And we have learned that when we trust people, they will take advantage of that trust. So we have kind of suppressed our nature and taught ourselves to be skeptical. So when we think about trust, we think about it as, okay, well, how do I make people trust me? And that just is taking the wrong approach, because it's taking an approach of a selfish approach. So if we think about, okay, if the foundations of our species is that we connect and cooperate, the right approach to take to trust is not how do I make you trust me, is how can I show you I'm trustworthy? We put the burden on forcing a thing. Yeah, because we don't need to convince people's nature to be more trusting. It's inside of them. They have built barriers because other people are the threat. We take the pressure off of them and it's on us. It's how can I show you I am a safe place? And a lot of that is, and that's why I say that it's about long term, because trust takes time. So if you think you can get the upper hand in all of your interactions by manipulating and falsifying a persona, you might get a quick win, but you will not get it long term, because you can only hold a persona for so long. So if you really want to work on how to make people trust you, work on your character, work on doing the hard work of, I really, really want to take this job, but I know it's not going to be in my best interest, so I won't. I'll do the thing that I need to do to maintain this integrity. So one of the things is, how do I show people I'm trustworthy? And a lot of that is, okay, well, how can I improve my body language? How can I improve how reactive I am? How can I suppress my emotions at the point that it's necessary? If you know that you are a very reactive person, that's not going to make people feel good. So that's something you know you need to work on in the moment when you feel an emotion. Put it to the side. I call it shelving it. So once that interaction is done, it's not that emotion doesn't exist. Now you take it off the shelf and you deal with it when you can. You don't throw out other people. So there's a lot of self-work involved there.
Right. It's interesting. First of all, I love the distinction between selfish versus self-centered or do you say self-centered? Self-serving. You
Self-serving.
said self-serving. Yeah. So the difference between as a species having like this innate selfishness versus actually having more of an innate self-serving quality, which of course is like that survivalist
Yes.
instinct that we all have, which is why we're all here
Yep.
in the first place.
Yep.
Generations and millennia later. But the other thing that I think is really interesting about what you said is people like going back to what you said earlier when we started this conversation, right? People are really fascinated about like decoding other people's behaviors and like, this person did this and therefore it means Y, right?
Yeah.
And actually what you're saying is like, well, what am I doing and how do I show up and what are my behaviors and how might they influence other people's experiences, right? And if I want to, like, if my goals still, right, self-serving, are around, achieving this or, becoming a big name in this space or whatever, having a successful business, right? I can't just go about trying to like manipulate other people or trying to see what other people are doing and then like changing that. I actually have to really first reflect and do a lot of work on how I show up and whether or not that is aligned
Yeah.
with my intention,
Yep.
right?
I think one of the clearest examples I've physically seen is there's an agent and he was talking about this suspect is closed off. He is reactive, he is rude, he is unengaged, he is hiding something, he does not want to be here. He's so defensive. I'm like, okay, so show me the recording then. He is in his face, he is aggressive,
Yeah.
and he is showing no warmth. And I'm like, maybe he's not being defensive because he's hiding something. Maybe you are making him defensive.
Yeah.
Maybe it's your behaviors being reflected back. If you're in someone's face, it's like if someone gets your order wrong at a restaurant and you shout in their face, do they want to correct your order? They'll go, okay, no problem. And they want to spit in your food and give it to you. If you are understanding, I'm so sorry, this is not what I ordered. I know you're busy. Is it okay to, get a new plate? Of course. They're so sorry. That negative feeling towards you is gone. They want to help you. We want to help kind people. We don't want to help rude people. So when you're like, this isn't working, they're not doing this, they're the problem, we have to step back and look at, well, what are you doing to make that reflected on them? And it's a really hard thing to do.
For sure. You're familiar with Dave Thompson at WZ?
I love Dave Thompson.
Yeah,
He's
so he's
amazing.
obviously, he's one of our favorite people and they're partners of Virtual Sapiens and we're very honored to get to
I
work with
didn't
them.
know
But
that. That's
their whole
great.
body, we're very excited about it. But yeah, like like their whole body of work is changing the way investigations have happened
Yes.
because historically they have been this, at the very best, like good cop, bad cop kind of like pressured, almost like incentivizing people to like confess to things, right? Like it's kind of been a little bit of a scary thing, right? And all of their work is exactly as you say, like trying to actually build trust and rapport so that people can speak their truth, which is what's going to get you again, right, to where you need to be, which is finding out what happened.
Yeah, and this actually exemplifies a really important point that when you operate that way, you generally find people that operate that same way. Like Dave Thompson, he's running an event in Milwaukee in October. I'm training the upper hand at that event. And you find when you have people you respect, the way they operate, they tend to kind of gravitate towards each other. Because when you are really self-aware and when you think about doing the right thing and doing it the right way, you can see when other people aren't and you step back. And then you see when other people are and you kind of gravitate towards them. And one of the best things for getting what you want is actually surrounding yourself with people that operate in a way you respect. Because we don't realize, We don't realize how much we become like the people around us and how much it normalizes certain things. Like if someone parties a lot and drinks a lot, you kind of move towards that, like, oh, that's normal, that's regular. And then you go to a group where nobody drinks and nobody parties. So it's completely not regular. And you just shift a little in the groups you're around and you start to see your radar of what is acceptable change. So surrounding yourself with people that really embody the things that you want to embody is so important for that career growth.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Fascinating. So we're coming to the end of our conversation. If people want to engage with more of your work or follow more of your thought leadership, what are the best ways for them to do that?
So everything I post on my website, which is just abbieMaroño.com, ABBIEMARONO.com. It's also DrAbbieOfficial.com and Dr as in DR, AbbieOfficial.com, and DrAbbieEnterprises.com. And then obviously my socials, Dr. Abbie Official on Instagram.
Okay, perfect. LinkedIn, I imagine, right?
LinkedIn, I'm very active on LinkedIn. Just my name, Dr. Abbie Maroño on LinkedIn.
Okay, perfect. Which is where we'll be posting this conversation too. Anything else you'd like to share with the audience today before we sign off?
Actually, about virtual sapiens. When I started advising, AI was all new to me, and AI kind of
new to a lot of people at that point.
yeah, and scary to a lot of people. And AI still scares me, and it is very rare to me to find an AI company that I feel really embodies the values that I embody. So working with virtual sapiens and seeing the way your company embodies that long-term build is really just, it has been amazing.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. Like I said, we're very honored to have you and to count you as one of our advisors. So thank you, for your support over the past 5 years. Crazy.
5 years gone so fast.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, cheers to the next 5. Dr. Abbie, thank you for joining us today and for sharing all this just absolutely critical insight on human behavior and relationships. And thanks as always to our community for joining. We'll see you next time.